In the gospel text of today, which is taken from the Gospel of Mark chapter 12, verses 28 to 34, Jesus is asked about the first commandment. And it is a legitimate question. It is a valid question. It is a correct question, because in the first reading of today, taken from the book of Deuteronomy, Moses gives the people from God one main commandment, that is to love God with all one's heart, with all one's might, with everything that one has. That is the commandment. So when the scribe comes to Jesus and asks Jesus this, he is possibly trying to ask whether Jesus agrees with what Moses has said already in Deuteronomy, which is our first reading for today. And Jesus does agree that that is the first commandment. And even though asked about only one, Jesus goes on to say that there is another, a second, which is so like the first, namely loving others as we love ourselves. Very clearly, these two commandments hold everything together, and Jesus was able to see this. This was not novel on the part of Jesus, because other rabbis at the time of Jesus would also teach love of neighbor, but to place them on the same level was radical, was novel, was revolutionary. In other words, very clearly, as far as Jesus was concerned, love of God could only be manifested in its most intimate way when you loved others as you loved yourself. If my love for God was not translated into action, where I was able to reach out to others, where I looked at others as my brothers and sisters, then it remained merely in the commandment and in the book. So even though Moses invites the people to show that they are an intelligent people, to show that they are a holy people, to show that they are a people who are people of God by obeying God's commandments, what Moses in the final analysis commands them to do is to love God. Jesus shows that the love of God has to be translated by a person into action when a person loves another. So even though the scribe is very clear about the requirement of one commandment, Jesus educates the scribe, Jesus teaches the scribe that no one can stop only at that commandment, and every one of us has to move on. As a matter of fact, love of neighbor is known as the golden rule, namely loving others as you love yourself. If one loves others, in that love which one shows for others, one is also loving God. Because the love of God, according to James, cannot be manifested by only praising and extolling and singing God's praise up in the heavens. It has to be manifested by my decisions which I make to reach out to my neighbors here on this earth. And so, we need to ask ourselves how this love which we profess for others will be shown in action. Love is not an emotion. Sometimes love has been confused with an emotion. As a matter of fact, love is a reality. And the only reality is love. And the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is fear. When John tells us in his first letter, chapter 4, verse 18, that there is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. For fear has to do with punishment, and the one who fears is not perfected in love. My love has to be an accurate response which I give when my perception is clear. when I perceive something clearly, when I perceive a need clearly, and somebody needs assistance from me, somebody needs my help, and I respond to that, that is when I am loving. Let me show my love for God, not only in singing God's praise, which I will do, but also, and more importantly, in my reaching out to those in need, which I must do to show that I love God. Will you, as a disciple of Jesus, show your love for God tangibly by loving one person today?